Hello there, this is Yanis from the Arcweave team. We have just launched this year's Arcjam called the Card Game Challenge. And this is a video that will demonstrate how you can download our card game and modify it using only Arcweave. So to join this year's Arcjam, you first have to go to its page on itchio and click Join Jam. Then you need to register your team by clicking on this link here, which will take you to our special form where you can give everybody's name and role, for example, writer, illustrator, musician, composer, and their email address. So this is for us to be able to invite everyone to the same project where you will be able to work on your game. Once you accept the invitations, you will get access to an Arcweave project that serves as an example for the card game and which then you can modify to your own liking and create your own version. First of all, there is this welcome card that will explain to you where you can get your latest build of the card game. So let's do this first. Click here and download your version of the card game. So once you download from that link, you will see there are, for the Windows version at least, there are two executable files. One includes the console. There is similar build for the Mac, the one including the terminal, and we recommend that you actually use this one, so you will be able to provide errors and we can fix bugs during the jam. So let's run this now. So what we get is a stripped down game, a game with no assets, no title, and you're not actually able to play it. The play button is disabled. What you first need to do is press Alt and C. So Alt and C opens the in-game console, which is basically the modder's console. This window here shows you any errors of modding. So if you've forgotten to add an asset, for example, you will see a message here saying that, you know, this wizard has no profile picture or this card has no face. You need to add a stat here or there. So all these errors that require you to go back to your Arcweave project and fix things will be hopefully presented here. So the first thing we need to do, it says here, no saved project hash, type valid hash value. So we can go to full screen actually. To get the project hash, you need to go to your Arcweave project and show the status bar. And if you go to your URL, you will see this arcweave.com app project. And right after the project, you have a code, which is basically the hash, the project hash. Copy this, double click on it. So if you go here, you double click and then copy. Back to our game, we paste it here. And then click fetch, but make sure you also have the assets checkbox ticked. This by pressing escape, you can open the settings menu. It says here, press escape for settings and game instructions. So you get some instructions here for the game, but we'll go through that together now. So now what has happened is we went to our modder's console, we connected the game with our Arcweave project and fetched. And this fetches all the Arcweave data along with all the assets. Let's see where these are. So we get to fetch all the dialogues that are in our boards. And we also get to fetch components, all the wizard components, the cards components in our decks, and the assets that we have already included in this game version. Let me get this as low as possible. And maybe the UI sounds and the sound effects. Now let's play the game a little bit so you get... So first of all, you get the title here, Demo Project, which is the same title as our project. Let me make this full screen so we get there. And we get a game of subterranean bravado. So this is also some piece of text that we fetch from the Arcweave project. We'll see where this comes from. And we get 3 buttons. Now the play button is enabled, and it's also, there's a texture of some sort of parchment and a background image. If you want the game to be full screen, you go to this button here and click it. And now it's full screen. Otherwise, it's windowed. Now, let's see how the game works first of all. So let's play a little bit. The first thing we get is a dialogue sequence. So this is our player here. And we have a sequence of dialogue with the first enemy, who is Jorge the Vampire Magus. Well, Archimedia, the Arcweaver in the flesh, etc., etc. So we get to create a dialogue sequence with the enemy. And there's some music playing as well. And once we get this colored button here that says go to battle, we click that and we go to the actual game. Let me get this music a little low and let's start the battle. So this is the main screen of the game. This is the battle scene. What we get here is we have a deck of cards, each of the participants. So the player's here, the opponent is here. We get the status bars of the player, Archimedia the Arcweaver, and the opponent, Jorge the Vampire Magus. We get the health and the gems, the score of gems, how much money we have basically, and we can use these gems to play cards. So each card has a gem score, which is a cost score up here. So this card requires 2 gems to spend in order to play it. So at the moment I only have 1. And we also get an attack score and a health score. Now at this moment I cannot play any cards because they all are more expensive than I can afford. The only thing I can do is end my turn. The same with the player. He couldn't play anything. So moving on now, we have a card of 1. But now every turn we see that the gem score actually increases by 1. And now we have 2 gems to spend in this round. So I can play a card that costs 2 gems, or I can play this one as well. And here is the game log, which describes step by step what happens. So at first the player draws 3 cards, the enemy draws 3 cards, the player draws 1 card, and the enemy draws 1 card. That was when we couldn't play. Now the player draws 1 card, and here we are now. Let's play the snake case. So the other thing we notice is, of course, that every card has some sort of bark. And when you play it, you can hear the bark, which is a lot of fun. I had lots of fun creating the barks. Hope you do too. And now I have no more gems, so I end my turn. Okay, so this is how the game is played, more or less. Now let's have a look at how we can modify the game using our Arcweave project. Yes, I will have to exit now this, and maybe cool. I'm not gonna quit. I'm just gonna put the music completely off, and we'll go to our Arcweave project. Let's see how each element present in the game is actually represented here. So first of all, we have components. Let's go to our component list up here, click on Components tab, and let's have a look here. We have a folder that's called Wizards, and it includes some components First of all, we get Archimedia the Arcweaver. This is our player. The same with Jorge, the Vampire Magus, and the rest of the enemies. These are the wizards. Let's see what a wizard component needs to have. First of all, it needs to have a component list attribute called cards. And this includes the components of the cards that the enemy uses in their deck. Of course, we also need the name. This is the full name of the wizard, and this is what will appear in the wizard's status bar. And the image we get to see during the battle and also during the dialogue. Then we get an attribute of the type string, which is called health. Another string attribute called HTML color is actually giving us the color of the status bar as well as the color of the fireball. Any cards by this enemy, when they hit their opponent, they will do that with a black fireball. You can type the HTML color either with a hex code or with its HTML name. So all the names that are accepted in the HTML universe, world, are actually accepted here as well. Then we get to our initial gems and the maximum gems. So yes, every round you get to increase your gems by 1, but this is the ceiling. This is the maximum gems that this wizard can get during the battle. And then we have 4 other attributes, which are asset lists. This is a component list, but these are asset lists. It's a new feature, and you can directly attach assets to a component. So here we have the battle background. This is the image that will be displayed when the battle is happening with this specific opponent. We have the audio theme. This is the theme that plays during the dialogue and during the battle with the Magus, I mean. The back of the deck, so this is the image that the backside of the deck has, and this is the front. So when we hover over the card, this is the frame, the card face that we see. Now, wait a minute, you say this is the player. How do I know, how does the game know that this is the player? So let's go, you see we have all the wizards components here. And then we have another component called settings. So this is where you declare your player. So the player, there's a component list here called player. And this is where you add your wizard that will be the player. And underneath we have another component list called enemies. And this is where you put your enemy components with the order that they will appear in the game. So if you change this order, we get Balrog to be the first enemy and Jorge to be the second. Some more things are here. Let's go through them quickly. There's an asset list attribute called button texture, and this is the parchment-like texture that the buttons have. There is a second option here that we have included already. So if you go to assets, you want to change these. The UI, you go to button texture 2, and you drag this, just drag it so that this comes first. And now when we start the game, we'll see a plain texture, which looks like this. And what is that? Special button HTML color. Now, you remember that the play button had a special color. The end turn button also had the same color. And this is where we get to control this. So if we put orange here, this next time we fetch, this button will be orange. We can actually just check that right away. So we can refetch, and also assets. We don't need assets because we haven't changed any assets of the project. We haven't included any new assets. So let's just fetch without assets. And now we see that we have the second texture of the buttons, and the play button is orange. Here is the intro screen image. This is also an asset list. This image that we have in the intro screen. This is where we put the audio that we hear in the intro screen. And this is where we get this little blurb, a game of subterranean bravado, this blurb here. We just add here what we want, a game of wits and lots of assets. And this can be rich text as well, so you can put this in bold. Now we get the victory screen image. When we win the game, when we beat every opponent, we get to the victory screen. And this is the background image. This is the audio we're going to hear. And this is the text we're going to see. And there's a defeat screen. This is the background of the defeat screen. This is the audio we're going to hear. And this is the text. Simple things. I mean, they're just all in this settings component. Last but not least, we get the card components. The wizard component has several cards. We already saw this Heisenbug card and the snake case card. So let's open the Heisenbug, for example. The component of the cards has a different structure. And we see, of course, the image cover for the component, the name, a description, which is the description that we see when we play the game and hover over a card. And here we have a string attribute called times in deck, which tells us how many times this card appears in the deck. The bark, which is an asset list. Heisenbugger! So this is what we hear when we play this card. The attack score, the health score, the cost, and, well, this card has no special abilities. If we want to add abilities, we can just check this one. So Snake Case, for example, has the same structure, and it includes the special ability of regeneration. Now so far we've created 2 special abilities. You go down here to the folder abilities and you find charge and regeneration. And if you don't know what they are, you just open them. We have a description here. This description is not used in the game. It's just for you to know that on the next turn, the card restores at max health. And the charge, the card attacks in the same turn that is played. So this was actually the first part of this video. There is a second part that deals with dialogue, so see you there.